Hi everybody, this is Claire Rooney from clairerooney.com. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about how stress affects your hormones. Now everybody knows that hormones are very important for keeping your weight management in check, for fertility for example, and they're involved in many mechanisms of growth and repair. So without a healthy hormonal system, it's extremely difficult to manage your weight. It's extremely difficult for your body to repair and rebuild your muscles and joints. So this is why it's so critical to have an understanding of how to optimize healthy hormone production. Now in your body there is a master or mother hormone called pregnenolone. And this basically is like a raw material, and it can be converted into other hormones depending on the environment and the demands that are on the body. Now if all things are going well and we're in a nice environment, we're relaxed, we've had plenty of sleep and our stress levels are low, that pregnenolone will be converted into DHEA, and the DHEA can be further converted into testosterone and estrogen. This pathway is extremely favourable for optimizing body composition, because if you're producing the sex hormones testosterone and estrogen, it means that the body is going to shift into an anabolic state. This anabolic state means you can build muscle and you can repair tissue. So if you've had a nice intense weight training session and those sex hormones are optimized, it means your body's going to go away and it's going to repair and rebuild, and you're going to come back stronger, fitter, and hopefully build a little bit of lean body mass, which is life extending, and it also gives you that lovely toned look that most people are after. Now, on the contrary, if our environment is very stressful, if we've not had a good night's sleep, if we're missing meals or we're eating foods that are less than optimal for supporting good blood sugar regulation, for example, then that pregnenolone can go down another pathway. And this pathway has sometimes been described as the pregnenolone steal. The pregnenolone that would normally go down the sex hormone building pathway is now diverted down the stress hormone production pathway. So it will be converted into cortisol. Now this cortisol is highly catabolic. That means breakdown, that means tissue wasting. So if you're producing a lot of cortisol, it is extremely difficult to capitalize on the effects of your training. And if you're a person who has any sort of pathology, biomechanically speaking, for example, weakness in the lower back, for example, muscle aches and pains that don't go away, for example, strains that just you can't seem to get rid of them, they're constantly there, constant niggles of muscular aches and pains, or injuries that just don't seem to respond to training. This is a very strong sign that your body has run down this stress hormone production pathway. Now there's other signs and symptoms that this is happening in your body. If you're not producing those sex hormones during that healthy pathway or that optimized pathway, then it means you can have a very low sex drive. So low sex drive, you know, it doesn't feel good to anybody. When you're feeling good, you're feeling energized, you're going to have a naturally healthy libido. But if you've got a low desire for sex, if your mood is low, you suffer from a lot of brain fog, that's a strong sign that your hormones have gone down this catabolic stress hormone production pathway. Now, how else could this affect us? Well, in terms of the basic physiology, if you're producing sex hormones are all about reproduction and procreation. But it's not just on a physiological level that we can consider this phenomenon. If your body is producing these sex hormones, you are essentially moving into a space of creation and regeneration. If you are producing the stress hormones, you're moving down a pathway of destruction and breakdown. If you're in this destructive breakdown type of pathway, it's very difficult to be creative. So if we want to optimize our health, we want to spend as little time as possible in this, chronic stress hormone production mode, and much more time in this creative and regenerative mode. So just notice, what's your creativity like? In business terms, people call this executive functioning. And if you were an artist, it would be like being in the flow, having a strong drive to create things. So this is just lots of little signs and symptoms to see what side of the teeter-totter of the pregnenolone functioning you're operating from. Now, pregnenolone is produced from cholesterol. A lot of people, when they hear the word cholesterol, they think it's a bad thing and they worry about having high cholesterol levels. But having levels of cholesterol too low is just as deleterious, because then you cannot make pregnenolone effectively or in enough amounts, and then of course you cannot make those sex hormones. And also, what we would notice if we're in a very, very high stressed state, the body is scrambling to produce more and more stress hormones. So many people who have high levels of stress, the reason that they have high levels of stress, or people who have high levels of cholesterol, is because they're so stressed. The body is scrambling to produce more and more stress hormones. So you can have elevated cholesterol simply from runaway and chronic stress. Now, small intermittent bouts of stress are necessary and they are part of life, but it's the chronic, unrelenting stress that is very, very deleterious to the body. If you're in this fight or flight mode all of the time, your body cannot repair. You can become very, very resistant to weight loss. Your sex hormones can be in serious decline. DHEA, which is the second step before pregnenolone turns into the sex hormones testosterone and estrogen, that's actually a marker of your overall aging. So we want to keep those hormones in balance as much as possible. Having small periods of stress like exercise is good. Small periods of stress like sauna therapy, this is good because it keeps the body vigorous and keeps it on its toes. And it'll actually make the body stronger and healthier in the long run. But it's the unrelenting chronic stress that we haven't addressed, either mental stress, emotional stress, physiological stress, stress from toxicity. If we haven't addressed these stressors, your hormones are going to be in an absolute tailspin. And if one hormone is out of kilter, then invariably all the other hormones in your body are also out of kilter. I talked in one of my last videos about how chronically elevated cortisol creates thyroid suppression. And when you have thyroid suppression, weight loss, for example, is extremely difficult. So stress is affecting your hormones on multiple levels. There is a vast number of people in the world with infertility. And again, one of the prime causes of it is this pregnenolone steal. If you're turning all of that mother hormone into stress hormones, you cannot produce stress hormones, and therefore you're going to be infertile. So this is my call to you to start working on stress management. This is one of the topics I cover in detail in my Holistic Living coaching course. You will see it on my website, www.clairerooney.com. I also have a do-it-yourself program of this with these topics, and it is also listed on my website. So you've got tools with these programs to help you to live a more holistic, a more balanced life where you're able to manage stress. We will never get to the point in our lives where there is no stress. Some stress is highly desirable. Otherwise we wouldn't have the motivation to get out of bed in the morning and get going and doing things. It's only when it becomes relentless that it's a problem. So manage your stress levels and you can optimize hormones, and with optimal hormones you're going to get better results from your training. You will have better libido. With better libido you're moving into the creative space. And this creative space in Ayurvedic medicine shows up as chakra number 2, the sacral chakra, which is located at the lower abdominal wall level. And when we're in this creative space, we feel we can get into flow states more readily, we get stuff done far more effectively, and we have this fantastic executive functioning if you're a business person. And if you're an artistic person, of course, you're in that flow state, you're creating loads, you're getting wonderful new ideas. So whatever way you slice it, really becoming a master of stress management can only do good things for not just your physique, but your functioning in your working life, and in all areas and other aspects of health and even relationships, because this sacral chakra is actually the area of our relationships. So thank you for tuning in today. In today's video, I was looking at how stress affects your hormones. If you're interested in learning more, if you're interested in working with me, please check out my website, www.clairerooney.com. We'll see you next time.